Vincent Kompany admits that Luis Díaz is worth far more than what they paid. He cost little, but he's worth gold. The figure that doesn't reflect reality. Today we're not here to discuss an isolated number or a cold valuation taken from a statistical platform. Today the focus is on Luis Fernando Díaz, the footballer who has made all of Europe debate the same question. What is Lucho's true, real value? Because there are figures that, far from clarifying, distort reality. And Luis Díaz is the clearest example. According to official records, that market thermometer many consider unquestionable, his value is set at 70 million euros. It's been the same figure since his arrival at Bayern Munich. It hasn't moved, it hasn't been updated. It's a static image, frozen in time. At first glance, it might seem as if nothing has changed, but all it takes is watching a single Bayern match to understand that this number doesn't tell the whole story. On the pitch, something different happens. A silent but constant impact. Luis Díaz didn't land in Germany for a gradual process or an adaptation period. He arrived and delivered immediately, without excuses, without concessions. In a tactical, demanding, and ruthless football environment with a new language, new teammates, and constant pressure, Lucho played as if he had worn red his entire life. From the very first match, he became the recurring difference maker, the player who breaks defenses, the one who accelerates when the game gets stuck. Bayern didn't just sign a reinforcement, they found a true attacking engine. And that's where an uncomfortable truth begins to take shape. Inside the club, internal voices acknowledge it without fanfare. Even Vincent Kompany admits it privately with a conviction as clear as it is blunt. We paid little. What we have is worth gold. A short, direct, devastating phrase, because it sums up the feeling that now fills Munich. Bayern didn't just sign a great footballer. They made a historic deal. While official values remain immobile, reality moves forward without slowing down. Luis Díaz didn't stagnate. Quite the opposite, he exploded. And this seems to be just the beginning of a story that could forever redefine how Colombian football is valued in Europe. From a good operation to the deal of the century. To understand why Munich now talks about gold, you have to go back to the origin, to the exact moment Luis Díaz left Anfield and headed to Germany. The transfer was finalized in the summer of 2025 for a figure close to 75 million euros. In England, the news was received with a mix of relief and debate. For many, Liverpool had completed a logical operation. They sold a key player approaching 29 years old and secured a considerable profit compared to what they paid Porto. The question echoed through bars and newsrooms in Merseyside. Did they do right by selling him at that price? Today, that same question is being asked in Germany, but from a completely opposite perspective, because the debate has done a full turn. It's no longer about whether Bayern paid too much. Now they ask how it was possible to pay so little. The numbers speak clearly. In his first half season with Bayern Munich, Luis Díaz has 22 matches and more than once out of 100 minutes on the pitch. The balance is overwhelming. 13 goals and 7 assists. Let's pause for a moment. These are not decorative numbers. They are 20 direct goal contributions. These are the stats of a footballer who doesn't just play, he decides matches. Luis Díaz shows up when the game becomes thick, when the opponent drops deep and the margin for error disappears. Whether in the brutal intensity of the Bundesliga or under the maximum pressure of the Champions League, Lucho is always present in the decisive moments. That's why in England they no longer celebrate the sale. Today they watch from a distance, with resignation. Meanwhile, in Munich the feeling is unmistakable. Bayern didn't just get it right, they got ahead of the market. What once seemed like a reasonable operation is now being quietly described as the deal of the century. Because Luis Díaz doesn't just perform, he leads, makes the difference, and raises the collective level. And when a player achieves that, his value stops being counted in millions and starts being measured in impact. The value that doesn't fit into a number. When a footballer reaches this level of influence, statistics are no longer enough. Luis Díaz's case at Bayern Munich goes beyond goals and assists. It has to do with identity, character, and leadership. His signing was neither automatic nor unanimous. Inside the club, there were doubts. Some argued for betting on young talent, long-term projects, or local names that represented the future. It was the classic dilemma of modern football, promise versus certainty. The board made a firm decision. They bet on Luis Díaz's international experience, on a player forged in Portugal and proven in the Premier League, on someone who understands top-level pressure from the very first minute. They bet on what is now evident, the greatest reference of Colombian football in Europe. Over time, that decision stopped looking risky and began to look like a lesson in sports management. His impact crossed borders. In Madrid, heavyweight analysts from UNED began to mention his name with absolute respect. Some point to him, without hesitation, as the best left winger in the world, and fantasize about seeing him as the ideal partner for Kylian Mbappe, not as a luxury, but as a strategic piece capable of enhancing any attacking system, a scenario that today clashes with the reality of a contract locked in until 2029. But there's something no contract or figure can fully explain: the commitment, the joy, the heart. Luis Díaz plays every match as if he carries an entire country on his shoulders. He never gives a ball up for lost, runs every meter with conviction, and competes with a smile that spreads through the locker room and the stands. It's the essence of the Colombian Caribbean displayed on the cold Bavarian grass. It's the spirit of Colombian football at its highest expression. That's why the final question has no exact answer. The paper says 70 million, Bayern paid 75, his historical peak was 85. But reality goes far beyond that. Every dribble, every decisive goal, and every big night in Munich adds invisible zeros to his true value. Luis Díaz is no longer measured only in euros. He's measured in inspiration, pride, and global impact. And while the world debates how much he's worth, he keeps playing like the kid from Barrancas who wants just one thing: to enjoy the ball and leave everything on the pitch. Now the question is yours. How much do you think Luis Díaz is worth on the market today?